Over 4 days, a massive wall of fire consumed more than 13,000 homes and erased central London. In 1666, this was a thriving, densely packed commercial hub, cramming nearly 500,000 people into its streets. The city's structural risk was obvious. Buildings were highly flammable timber, their upper floors leaning over narrow alleys until they almost touched. Below, street-level shops stockpiled combustible coal and oil. By late summer, a severe drought had dried out the entire grid. The English capital was effectively an unprotected, desiccated powder keg. A single spark anywhere in the city guaranteed total destruction. That spark arrived shortly after 1 a.m. on September 2nd, inside Thomas Farriner's bakery on Pudding Lane. The historical record suggests a stray, hot ember escaped the bakery oven, quietly igniting the dry wooden interior while the household slept. Strong eastern winds immediately caught the flames, driving the fire outward from the bakery into neighboring homes long before residents could react. 17th century London lacked organized fire departments. There was no systemic emergency response or advanced equipment available to contain a sudden outbreak. The isolated fire on Pudding Lane became a catastrophic threat because the city had absolutely no mechanisms in place to stop it from spreading. The initial response fell to city officials, primarily Lord Mayor Sir Thomas Bloodworth, who examined the bakery fire early on and dismissed its severity. The only viable defense against urban fires was a firebreak, preemptively tearing down adjacent homes to physically remove fuel from the fire's path. But Bloodworth hesitated, fearing the financial cost, wasting the narrow window when manual containment was still mathematically possible. During those lost hours, the wind pushed the blaze forward. The fire gained so much momentum that manual teardowns could no longer keep pace with the advancing wall of heat. By the time the Lord Mayor finally authorized the demolitions, the fire's momentum was already greater than any manual effort to stop it. The inferno escalated with terrifying speed. Gale-force winds carried burning embers high into the air, dropping them onto roofs to ignite entirely disconnected fires across the city. Mass panic set in. Thousands of desperate families abandoned their properties and fled toward the River Thames, crowding onto small boats beneath a thick, smoke-choked sky. The radiating heat reached such unnatural, extreme temperatures that solid stone masonry began to violently crack and fracture. Even the historic St. Paul's Cathedral fell to the flames. The localized temperatures grew so intense that its massive lead roof melted like wax. Inside the cathedral, thousands of priceless books and civic records were completely incinerated, representing an immense loss of cultural and intellectual history. For 4 relentless days, the infrastructure of civilization collapsed. London became an uncontrollable ocean of flames, consuming its human populations and historical legacy alike. Early responders tried to fight back using leather firehooks and buckets of water, tools completely inadequate against a raging firestorm. Bypassing the failed city officials, King Charles II ordered a radical escalation in tactics, deploying the military to intervene directly. The soldiers resorted to extreme measures. They utilized military-grade gunpowder to explosively level entire city blocks at once. This aggressive tactic rapidly cleared away the remaining fuel. Combined with the eastern winds finally dying down, the massive explosive firebreaks successfully starved the inferno. The fire was defeated through intentional destruction. It took the explosive leveling of their own streets to save what little of the city remained intact. As the smoke cleared, the physical toll became apparent. Over 13,000 vanished homes, nearly 90 destroyed churches, and 70,000 citizens left homeless. Official records listed only a handful of casualties, but historians suspect a much higher toll. The intense heat likely vaporized many of the bodies, leaving the official count as an incomplete record of the human loss. Yet researchers note a complex historical paradox. The Great Fire may have inadvertently cured London of the deadly Great Plague epidemic that ravaged it the previous year. The fire's path moved through the high-density districts where the plague-carrying rats and fleas of the previous year had thrived. This led to the historical observation that the destruction of these neighborhoods may have contributed to the sudden decline of the Great Plague in London. The reconstruction of the city came with strict mandates. The vulnerable medieval timber was stripped away, replaced by highly fire-resistant brick and solid stone. Structural and legal upgrades followed immediately. Narrow alleys were widened into structured streets, and new safety codes were implemented across the grid. The wooden death trap of 1666 was entirely erased, allowing a safer, vastly superior capital to rise from the literal ashes. The Great Fire forced the birth of modern London. Destroying the flawed medieval city directly catalyzed the construction of the resilient metropolis that stands today.